Hello and welcome to race 6 of our GT Sportsmates Manufacturers Championship here at Mount Panarama. For the first time, we will be commentating on the race and hopefully making it a better experience for you, the viewers. Let us know in the comments if you prefer it or not. Now, we are just about to start, so we'll head on down to the start line, and I would like to introduce our second commentator, John. So, John, before we get on the way, and we do with a false start by the Dodge, what are your predictions for the race?
I think it's going to be a really interesting race. We've got a situation where we've got John at the front, myself on the soft, and then we've got Kyle on the super soft, yourself, and Josh on the medium. So we've got 3 different tyres there at the beginning, and that's going to definitely play a part in this.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that, actually. We've seen in different races, Josh in the Jaguar, for all those listening, he does seem to prefer the medium tyre. Maybe that's simply how he likes to plan his race to be able to stay out longer, who knows. But on this track, I think tyres are going to come into it quite a lot because they do take quite a battering, especially coming through the top section as we currently are doing.
Absolutely. We've got a situation where Josh can do a no stop in this race. If he manages that fuel, he can get to the end without stopping, and that's really going to push him towards the end of the race. But if he can pull that strategy off, then it's worked for him before. It worked for him at Laguna Seca, so he could well find himself on the top step here if he can keep it together towards the end.
He absolutely can, and I absolutely love how you got out of that turn 18 then coming on to Conrad straight, by the way, because on cold tyres on the first lap, these bends are not easy, and you managed to get around, unlike the McLaren there, who's just scraped that wall, opening up the door for the Dodge.
Back into third for Kyle yourself, that's great. I think we were talking before the race, weren't we, about the tyres towards the back of the fields from the starting grid. I think Neil and Luke were on soft tyres, and Luke's picked up a bit of damage there at the start. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes for an early stop and goes to something like a 2-stop strategy, or if he sticks it out and goes longer with the damage. And is it going to work for him? Is he going to be able to get past Neil towards the end, or is he going to find himself in a situation where that damage is too much and costing too much time?
That's a very good question. You probably just saw then, actually. Myself in the Dodge, I actually had to pit from the mistake at the beginning with the false start. I did pick up some damage. I had no option. I had to go into the pits. I had to get fresh tyres and fix that aerodynamic damage. I was suffering quite bad in the top of the mountain. So Luke staying out was a very bold, very brave move. Let's see if it pans out for him, because we know anything from Luke. A bit of a dark horse. You don't hear anything from him for a while, and all of a sudden in your rearview mirror there's a pink Porsche burning down.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the Laguna Seca race again, he went long in that race, and he did the 1-stop. He could well have found himself in a solid second position there. I think looking back to that race, he could have stayed out and tried to make that no-stop work. He could well have found himself second place there. So he is a dark horse in this race, and he could well find himself in a really strong position, despite the fact that he's picked up a bit of damage there. He's dropping back down to last now. That stop for super softs from yourself there, really working well at this stage. Be interesting to see how many stops we actually end up with from you here, because we're on lap 4 now. You've done 1 stop. You're on super softs. At what stage are you going to pit for that second time, and when you do pit, what tyres are you going to pick up? And we've not really mentioned fuel that much. How much fuel are you carrying at this stage? So many questions.
There is, yeah. I mean, the Dodge, unfortunately, it's a bit of an eater when it comes to the tyres, especially I found on this track. I don't know if it's just because of the amount of force required to get around these corners, but the Dodge very much does eat through tyres. The fuel on the Dodge, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. At this point, I hadn't refueled. I was still on the same amount of fuel as the start of the race, so I was trying to save as much time as I could in the pits. And I was not full throttling it through some of these corners. I was just trying to catch the slipstream here off the McLaren. Just again trying to preserve as much fuel as I could to go towards the end of the race. I know the Jaguar, for instance, Josh in that Jag, that has got a massive fuel tank, and it seems to probably be the most efficient car as well. So knowing he was on mediums, knowing he could potentially do this without stopping, all I could think about as I go off here very, very badly, I completely outbrake myself in that corner. All I could think about was saving as much fuel as possible while still trying to attack. But sometimes you've just got to go for it, especially when you're down in fourth position. You don't have much of a choice sometimes.
Yeah, it's a recovery drive. You picked up that damage on the start, and you was on a super soft tyre, so it was an aggressive strategy to begin with, going for the faster tyre, going for the faster laps, but more management of that tyre towards the end of the stint, or more stops within the race. This year, you've got to sort of attack really aggressively, but you have got to play a bit of a longer game as well, because you've got to make sure that you're going to have enough fuel and tyres towards the end of your stint and towards the end of the race to make that work. And getting into third place there so far, halfway through the race, you've probably got at least another stop to do yet. You're in a decent position there, as I'm just coming in here into the pits, and this is where it's going to start playing out, isn't it? Because assumedly Josh is going to carry on here on the mediums.
He does, he goes through.
How long is he going to stay out on these mediums? Can he make it work to the end? And am I going to be able to catch up to him and start battling for that lead again? In Laguna Seca, it didn't work out that way. He managed to, I think he was about 3 seconds ahead by the end of the race, and it won him the race. That strategy really did win him the race, as well as his excellent driving as well. There's nothing to say it can't happen here again, because it's a long pit stop here as well. You lose quite a lot of time.
You do, yeah, especially if you do what I've just done. I don't know if you noticed, as I was coming into the pits, I caught the rumble strip on the outside. I was a bit concerned. I was like, are they going to hand me a penalty for that? It was a bit quick into the pits. I really didn't want a penalty. I'd fought to get back to third position. I knew you were not far ahead of me at this point. I knew you'd come out the pits, and I knew you was going to be absolutely flooring it chasing after Josh in the Jag. And I knew Neil was right behind me as well, and I knew I had to defend like crazy against our Neil. But in the same sense, I was like, I can't afford a penalty, but I have probably just got one. I need to slow down. I need to serve that time. When am I going to do it? That's if I get a penalty. And as you can see here, they do. They hand me a 2.5 second penalty. Stupid decision from me, carrying too much speed into the pit lane. One of those things. But this is interesting right here. Luke, he pitted the last lap. I don't know if you noticed. On the fresh tyres, catching up and overtaking the McLaren in turn 1. I just thought that was absolutely fantastic driving from the Porsche to climb back from where he was to get here. And now all he's got to do is try and defend as much as he possibly can.
He's left the door open there. He's going up in the inside. Can he hold it? Round
the back. The back.
What a move. He's got a bit of a gap there as well.
I don't know how he managed to pull it off. He braked earlier than the McLaren, and he swung in round the back end and managed to give himself a bit of breathing room. That was fantastic there. But it looks like coming out of Murray's corner here onto the home straight, you've caught up to the Jag here. This looks like it's going to be interesting, because these are tight turns, turn 1 there, Hell's Corner. It's very tight. And I know, like we've said in the past, this Jag in a straight line, it is so quick. I think I'm right in saying it's the quickest of the 5 cars, isn't it?
In a straight line, it really is. Yeah, it's so quick, and it makes it really, really difficult to overtake on a track like this, because on the section we're in now,
you slammed the door and you did it, didn't you?
Yeah. It's not really much of an overtaking section, is it? There's so many like, sort of winding and medium to high speed corners that it's difficult to sort of get a pass done. So the only opportunities really that you've got at the end of some kind of long straight into one of the tighter corners, but with him being so quick in a straight line, it's hard to get close enough to actually get that move done. So he's got himself in a decent position here, Josh has, because I've I've got the speed on the corners, but I can't use that because there's no opportunity to overtake until the end
it's
of the
quite
straight.
tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, talking about that Jag, trying to overtake on this track, it's all about doing exactly what you've done here, which is catching him in the corners, getting a fantastic exit, and getting inside that slipstream. Because if he gets away and you lose that slipstream, you just got absolutely no chance against him in a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely. Just starting to close up in the slipstream there now.
Yeah, you've managed to just grab that coming out of turn 18, haven't you, onto Conrad straight. You've got really nicely into that slipstream. You're going to come on the inside. Oh, it's going to be tight through here.
Super tight. Bit of contact.
Bit of contact, absolutely fine though. Look, oh, flipping it. This is close down here. It's the last corner, Murray's corner. This is the hardest, I'd say, the hardest corner of the entire track. But you don't go through too wide. You do not go through too wide. No way.
Coming up to T1.
Oh, it's going to be tight. He's going to come. He's off.
Oh, he's off.
He's off. The Jag's off.
So where's he going to come back on? So he, end of lap 8. Josh is pitting.
He's pitting
where
now.
Are you at this stage?
I am here. I'm right on his tail. I think, to be honest with you, bit of fortune on my side. That off in turn 1 at the beginning of lap 8 for Josh, I think just did enough to send his tyres completely out of it. He needed fresh tyres after that, and I kind of capitalised a little bit, caught up. I'll be honest with you, doing the race, I wasn't going to pit. I had enough fuel to get to the end, but I knew if I hadn't pitted, and fortunately I had jumped Josh here in the pits, I come out ahead, I had more fuel. That was literally the only part that went good for me. I had more fuel than Josh because he'd stayed out so long, so I could get out the pits quicker. But if I hadn't have pitted and I'd have gone around, he would have caught me very quickly, especially on the fresh tyres. I wouldn't have been able to stand a chance, especially as we talked about on the straights. He'd have just come past. I'd have been very, very hard to. It'd have been very, very hard to defend against the Jag on fresh rubber. It's very, very slippy, I'll say, is the word for the Dodge.
Well, I'm thinking what lap you did for the Super Socks, the second stop. Was it about lap 5?
Yeah, it was about lap 5, I think. End of lap 5, beginning of lap 6, I think it was. And then again, I pitted it on the end of lap 8. So this is lap 9 now. I did everything I possibly could. That was probably my best sector through turns 16 to 19. It's not my fastest lap, but it was probably the fastest part of the track for me that I knew I had to do something just to get a gap on that Jag. I don't know if the Jag had any issue coming down the hill, but it seemed to give me a little bit of breathing room. This is it now, the last lap, last corner for yourself.
Victory at Mount Panarama.
Victory at Mount Panarama for the Hyundai, and what's that now? Is that 4 podiums in first for you? I think it's 4, isn't it now?
I think it's 4 victories, yeah, quite possibly 4 victories.
I'll be honest with you, coming across in second for myself, I, from the get-go, did not see that happening. I honestly thought I'd be around potentially 4th place. I thought I could probably fight my way from 5th to 4th, but there was no way, especially having to pit at the end of lap 1. There was no way I was going to do it, but so I was surprised with myself there.
Making that 3-stop work and coming back to 2nd place, that was a heroic recovery.
It was. Thank you very much. Well, that's us from GT Sports Mates, and we will see you all next time.